Now, since coming here for Murdaugh and doing that trial in March, and I was back here 2 weeks ago for a trial, another trial in Colleton County. A mother who had been Teacher of the Year in the school system there left her 13-year-old totally handicapped and disabled child in a car beginning at 11 a.m. when it was 91 degrees outside, and left that child in the car until about 5 or 6 p.m. And she's constantly in and around the car with her boyfriend. And a climatologist testified that the temperature in that car got up to 139 degrees. And you're talking about remorse, and the testimonies and presentations over this mother and her mistake. She was on methamphetamine with her boyfriend. As remorseful. I cannot imagine anyone giving me a presentation of a mother who loved her child and who went wayward and more concerned about using drugs and pleasing her boyfriend than caring for her child. And she got 37 years in prison, convicted of murder. That was 2 weeks ago, here in the same 14th Circuit. And the folks who came to talk with him said, you know, she loved her child. Nothing she wouldn't do for her child. She had her child in the Special Olympics. But she abandoned the child. And so when I'm listening to Mr. Bamberg talk about Mr. Pinckney, Hakeem Pinckney, I'm thinking of that same type of vulnerability that child had. He was a child at the time, wasn't he?
He was a late teen, I believe, Your Honor.
And so he placed his trust in a respected member of the bar, a very respected member of this community, and I could tell that by all of the folks here. You know, I sometimes say that there isn't very much between any of us. We all have good and we all have bad, and certainly everyone was here to tell me about all the good in Mr. Fleming, but we're dealing with the consequences of the bad, and that is as bad as it gets in this case for a lawyer who has a prior record. He has no prior convictions, but when you carry on a scheme of over a decade, that's a record. Record that did not result in charges or convictions, but a record of his life. And as bad as it was with Mr. Pinckney, then we moved to the Satterfields. Again, vulnerable people. So I imagine, and I know that many of the friends and family and colleagues were totally shocked, not at what the good Cory Fleming has done over a period of time, but this Cory Fleming in these cases. And quite frankly, when the people come to me and wanted to lay the burden on me, said, "Judge, please be lenient," that's not my responsibility. You know, I believe in justice and mercy, but leniency is not part of Micah, the scripture. Facing 195 years in prison. Anything else before I impose my sentence?
No more mistake, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Fleming, if you'd come around for sentencing. My heart bleeds for you because I have no doubt of the quality of human being that you are, as reflected by all of the positive comments. But you must suffer the consequences of your actions in these cases that you're standing before me for. And tempering justice with mercy. It's my responsibility to impose a sentence. And there are so many. If I were to spend time here now imposing a sentence on each of these indictments individually, we'd be here for a few hours probably. So suffice it to say, with regard to the Satterfields, and need my clerk here will take notes for me. On count 10, where the exposure is 0 to 5, the sentence is 5 years. I wrote insurance. Is that insurance fraud?
Yes, sir.
That is count number or indictment number.
Next one's count 11, Your Honor.
Count 11.
Yes, sir.
And the exposure is 0 to 10. The sentence is 10 years. On the breach of trust with the 10-year possibility or exposure, the sentence is 10 years. On the money laundering, where the exposure is 0 to 20 years, the sentence is 10 years. On the 5-year breach of trust, the sentence is 5 years. On the 5-year money laundering, I believe it is 5 years. And on the computer crime, the sentence is 5 years. And each of those will run concurrent with each other. As to the breach of trust involving the Pinckneys, counts 5 and 9, is it?
Yes, sir.
Where the exposure is 5 years, the sentence is 5 years. The 30-day breach of trust, count 6, the sentence is time served. On the conspiracy charge, sentence is 5 years. On the breach of trust, where the exposure is 10 years, the sentence is 10 years. And that sentence will run consecutive to the sentence that you're currently serving. All the sentences otherwise will run concurrent with each other. I'm going to defer any restitution hearings. I believe it's just too convoluted for me to get a true handle on what the state is seeking and what should be ordered, and I tend to think that it's, well, I don't want to prejudge whether it's necessary or not, but I'm going to defer any ruling regarding any restitution. I'm not sure whether the state is actually seeking it, whether there's an actual loss, if there is, whether the parties can agree. We can have a separate hearing solely dealing with restitution if necessary. As Senator of the Court, I give you best wishes, Mr. Fleming.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So I need to take time to work with all this. Unless, were you following everything? You want to put the years on it? Yeah. Anything further here today, Mr. Waters?
No, sir. That would conclude the state grand jury matters for today, Your Honor.
All right, court will be adjourned.